In The Australian on May 10, 2012, Julia takes on Tony Abbott in a reality showdown. Julia Gillard targeted Tony Abbott by portraying him as a cassetted silvertail, living on Sydney's North Shore and being out of touch with real families. Due to Tony Abbott's criticism of the government's means-tested school kids bonus, the Prime Minister responded by targeting his home turf. Gillard said, "Mr. Abbott's got to get off Sydney's North Shore and go and talk to some real families and get himself in the real world." The Mater family who live on Sydney's North Beaches, in the heart of Mr. Abbott's electorate, see themselves as real family. Like any other Australian, with a husband and 3 children, Miss Mater says that they face the same problems as any other family. Federal MP Paul Fletcher, whose seat of Bradfield borders Warringah, said, "The suggestion the North Shore is not the real world and not populated by real families is offensive, and that her remarks showed that she did not represent the entire nation." This situation can be looked upon as an example of the impact on zone of difference on a given situation. Generally, the smaller the gap, the greater the integration, and the difference will not be as pronounced. Gillard has actively worked to widen the gap in this example, which has highlighted the perceived differences, not necessarily for the best, as it tends to alienate those who are separated from the position of power. Julia Gillard has made statements that are not aligned with the traditional Australian notion of egalitarianism and a fair go for all. While the image of Australia being an egalitarian society is perhaps a concept that is not as relevant to the 21st century, it still resonates with the average Australian and their ideals, whether real or perceived. While many people like the ideal of all being alike, they too are subject to levels of social stratification, implicit or not. While Gillard is correct in basing her comments on the levels of stratification, which no doubt exist, she has failed to take into the account the way in which many community feels they are represented. Both Wright and McGregor state that class divisions are actually becoming more complex, and certainly this can be seen in the current example in which the stereotype of the wealthy North Shore residents is not always accurate. Location is clearly not a determinant of levels of wealth and apparent ease of living. Marion Lewis refers to Divine's work, which states, "People have many different identities which coexist. Class, itself a multifaceted, complex phenomenon, provides a ready source of social identity that shapes and informs people's frames of reference and ways of thinking about their daily lives." I would start the lesson discussing with the students about the area, suburb they live in. The students then can tell me the name of their suburb. To assist the students, I would show them a map of the local area and point out the many different suburbs. This will allow the students to make the lesson personal by allowing them to identify where they live on the map. From here, I would ask the students to draw their house and their family on a piece of paper. Once the pictures have been drawn, I would make 2 sections on the whiteboard representing 2 suburbs. The kids then can come up with 2 suburb names. So I asked my son, who is in prep, and these are the names that he came up with: Superman and Batman. Then I would randomly put all the students' pictures on the whiteboard under the 2 suburbs of Superman and Batman. I would then explain the concept of how families live in many different suburbs, and there are nice suburbs and not so nice suburbs. You might live in an area where there are expensive houses, nice parks, and roads have been looked after and nice shops. Then there are areas that are not as nice. The houses may be run down or small, and the parks may not be mowed, or some of the equipment might be broken in the playgrounds. Then I would play out a little scenario for the kids so they can relate to. I'd write two names on two different drawings, for example, Johnny and Bob. So if Johnny lives in Superman suburb with a nice house and Bob lives in the Batman suburb with a small house and hasn't got very nice parks down the road, do you think that they should still be friends and play with each other? This will be the question I would pose to the kids. Then I would let the discussion play out with the students, emphasizing that it doesn't matter where we live or what house we live in, we are all the same. We should all have respect for each other and that we can't choose our friends on the basis of where they live or what their house looks like. We all live in different circumstances, but we are all Australians and human beings. So we need to see people for who they are as a person and not for the things that they possess. What do you love about your family and your house? I'd get the students to bring in photos of their family in their house. The students then can tell us about their family and the things that they do around their house, special things and fun things. This idea is emphasised in that we have our own individual identity with our family and that we are all dissimilar with each other in what we like to do with our family. Our houses are all different and our families are all diverse. At the end of all the presentations, we could have a discussion on about how we all have different lives and that we can't judge people for the type of house they live in or, for example, the type of food they have for dinner. Then to conclude the discussion, I would ask each student to tell the class one thing that they liked about another classmate's talk about their family and home. So, for example, Zach may say that he liked that Thomas had heaps of land at his house and they can play soccer in the backyard. And then Thomas may say that he liked Jessica's family as they had 6 kids and how much fun would that be?